Well, I get to talk about a completely different topic area in terms of the application of therapeutic nutrition and the impact on metabolic health and those sorts of things. So I'm really excited to be here. And so I'm going to go through a lot of material in a very short period of time. So I will just kind of skip through here as quickly as I can. I have no disclosures. Just one thing I want to highlight is that our organization, the Institute for Personalized Therapeutic Nutrition, is a charity. We have no financial ties to industry, whether it's pharmaceutical or food. So just kind of start with that. Just wanted to start with a definition as well. So what is personalized therapeutic nutrition? So what's key here is it's medically supervised and personalized, and it's a dietary intervention that's used to treat, manage, reverse, or achieve remission of chronic medical conditions. So we're not talking about wellness and prevention here. We're actually talking about using food therapeutically to treat medical conditions. And one of the challenges with food is that there's a lot of emotions attached to food. And there's a lot of beliefs that are also attached with food. So it's kind of a tough nut to crack sometimes because there's so many dietary wars and issues going on. So what we've tried to do is break through some of that and to come up with approaches in terms of communication that makes it easier for people to really understand what we're talking about here. So what we've really distilled all of these different dietary approaches that have therapeutic benefits into common principles. So what are the sort of key principles that any of these dietary approaches have? And so, you'll see on the side there's 7 kind of common principles. Again, we're hoping to break down some of the barriers and challenges and really focus in on what are the key levers that we can manipulate in terms of addressing metabolic health. And so you can see some of the whole foods and minimally processed foods and prioritizing protein and those sorts of things. So these are pretty common things, but it can be applied to any eating pattern. And so we don't have to get caught up in the branding of different dietary approaches. Let's just focus in on the principles that can be used. And the reason that we need to do this is that we have a massive problems with metabolic health. So the projections for diabetes, which is really the granddaddy of metabolic health issues, we're looking at over the next 20 or so years, IDF is estimating close to 800 million people will develop type 2 diabetes. When we look at the latest data that came out of the Lancet, which was last October, they're actually suggesting it could be as high as 1.3 billion by 2050. So this is a massive problem. And as we know, there is a bidirectional relationship between diabetes and mental health. So as we see more incidents of type 2 diabetes, we're going to see a lot more issues in terms of developing mental health issues. So you can see that the depressive disorders and anxiety disorders and bipolar disorders, which has been discussed earlier as well. So this is quite concerning. We're looking at dramatic increases in not only the incidence but also the costs associated with all these conditions. But I have some good news for you. And remission is possible. So we are now at a point where remission of type 2 diabetes is a recognized possibility. And remission is below the diagnostic criteria of type 2 diabetes. So below 6.5% hemoglobin A1C and off all glucose lowering medications. Diabetes Canada has sort of splits it between pre-diabetes and normal glucose control completely. But in general, the idea is that it has to be below the diagnostic criteria and no medications. There are actually some additional evidence indicating for those people that are diagnosed and interventions are implemented early, the remission rates can be as high as 77%. And new data that came out of a paper just a matter of a couple of months ago in the Look Ahead trial, they actually showed that remission even if they achieve 1 out of 4 follow-up periods, if they achieve remission in 1 out of those 4 follow-up periods, they could reduce chronic kidney disease by 33% and cardiovascular disease by 40%. For those who had more than one incidence where they were in remission, so up to 4 times where they had follow-ups where they were in remission, they had even higher rates in terms of lowering of the chronic kidney disease and cardiovascular disease. So this is very promising, and so we're excited about that aspect of it. But even more exciting, there may be some morphological changes that are happening at the beta cell level that is actually restoring beta cell function to near normal levels. So what that means is that we are at a point as close as we're ever going to get to a cure. So this study that was done in the UK demonstrated with 2 or more years of remission, we can get that maximal insulin production and beta cell mass to almost non-diabetic levels. That is fantastic news. So remission is possible. There's some fantastic improvements that occur, but we are still at a point where remission is not well known, and more importantly, primary care practices are not in a position to be able to support patients who are interested in pursuing remission. So what we try to do is explain to people that remission is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. So when we talk about these therapeutic nutrition interventions, we're talking about intensive interventions that actually can restore metabolic flexibility, can improve insulin sensitivity, and can normalize blood glucose. So again, definition, remission requires people to be off glucose-lowering medications and normal glucose control. There's 3 stages. First stage is the intervention. The second stage is the transition that gets them into a sustainable eating pattern that is going to be compatible with their interests, so their ethical, moral positions, their cultural influences or religious influences, those sorts of things. Finally, the maintenance phase is actually the most critical. And this is the piece that is missing from primary care. We're not very good at the sort of chronic disease management over long term. So maintenance, we have to take new approaches. It's about proactively supporting patients and anticipating what the challenges are. Life gets in the way of all the great intentions that we have. So we have to have recurrence management strategies in place to manage any recurrences that can occur, especially addressing medications and those sorts of things. So transforming primary care to address remission is an absolutely massive undertaking, but work is already underway. So in BC, we're working with the Rural Coordination Center, the Institute for Health System Transformation and Sustainability, and we've received a grant from Healthcare Excellence Canada to implement type 2 diabetes remissions in rural communities. And so we're working in 2 communities to advance the use of these therapeutic nutrition approaches so that we will have a strategy moving forward so that we can implement a toolkit in communities, in any community that is interested in supporting remission. And I just want to highlight that community-based remission services are actually quite complex and involve multiple layers of support. So it's not just a health service anymore. We're talking about community resources. We're talking about integrating food banks and farmers markets and working with the grocery stores to make sure that the foods that support remission are actually readily available. Working with recreational facilities as well as social networks. So really tapping into the community and the support that is available within these communities. Building out community kitchens so that we can actually support the cooking skills of people so that they learn how to not only use foods, but make them delicious so that they become the preferred option. But you can also see there's the remote and virtual aspects. So we need to create a comprehensive support system within these communities. And that means that we have to have lots of good information available to people. So what we've put together are a couple of really valuable patient resources. Remission Possible, which is diabetesremission.ca. That provides all the background, the evidence around type 2 diabetes remission. And then we've just launched a new one a couple of months ago, Reversing Prediabetes. So this one really provides a lot of the detail for people who are interested in reversing their prediabetes, again, it goes back to the eating principles. There's more options that are available currently in terms of evidence for reversing prediabetes than remission, but that is going to rapidly evolve as we go. So it's exciting. We're at a point now where we're starting to actually implement this in practice. And I just wanted to finish off by letting you know that every story of remission is unique. On our diabetesremission.ca website, we profile some of these amazing folks. And I just want to say that there's huge opportunities for us to start transforming the healthcare system, focusing on metabolic health. The underpinning of that is mitochondrial health. And so I'm just so excited to see the work that continues to happen with MITO2i. And I'm just thank you for your time and look forward to any questions that you might have afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. You hold on in the